Hello, 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 hello. Today, we're going to be doing a book video, and this video will include books I haven't read, books I cannot read because I cannot read the language, manga, graphic novels, as well as books that I have read and am in the process of reading. So, let's get started. Do I want to get started with? I'm going to start with a comfortable one. We have a library copy of No Country for Old Men. I am a huge Cormac McCarthy fan, and this is a very comfortable read for me because I also love the film. It's a movie, and the book is so. The film is so straight from the book, because I believe McCarthy helped write the screenplay. I may be mistaken, but it's like when I read this, I can imagine the movie in my head. And I'm a big Anton person. I'm a big fan of Javier Bardem and like anything that he does. I even watched Skyfall for him. It's the only Bond I've ever seen. But I thought we could make some sounds. This is a pretty old copy of this. I have a new strategy when I'm flipping through books and videos. I'm gonna hold them upside down from my perspective so I can't get distracted and start reading what's on the page, as I have before. Oh, what is my hair doing? Incredible. Next, I kind of want to keep with our movie theme and show a book that I have not read by Liv Ullmann, who has worked with the Swedish director Ingmar Bergman extensively. I love Liv. She's absolutely fantastic. And I found this book in the wild at a little coffee shop / bookstore in my town. I also have Changes by her, which is another book about her, and that one I did not find in the wild. I sought it out separately later, just because I feel very connected to Liv. I have since I was a high schooler, and I discovered Ingmar Bergman. This book was $4. So it's written in pencil. I don't know if it's silly to include books that I haven't read, but I'm doing it anyway because I have too many interests to do everything, so I just collect. We're gonna do A Little Manga Break by Junji Ito. Hello, Kitty. This is a book about his cats. Very short little, cute little manga about his kitties. It's beautiful. Sorry. There we go. We have Yon and Moo are the cats' names. It's good fun. This was a gift. This book was a gift to me. And it's it's absolutely lovely. Oh, here is Yon. Yeah, there's like a face on this cat. There were some panels about that. Oh, what is going on here? My God. Mon Dieu, mon Dieu. And here is Moo. Very pretty kitty. Very pretty kitty. Next, I want to move on to a book that I've read many times. One of my favorite books of all time, called A Pale View of Hills by Kazuo Ishiguro. This book takes place in so the book technically takes place in England, but it largely consists of the memories of a Japanese woman who was living in post-war Japan, and her experiences with both her child who was born in Japan and her child who was born in England, and all of her memories surrounding that. If you know Kazuo Ishiguro, you may know him from his book Never Let Me Go, which is like a sci-fi, very excellent sci-fi novel. I think it won the Nobel Prize in Literature as well. One of his did. I don't remember. There are some very just I don't want to get too dark right now, because this is a bit of a dark read, this account, but if you ever, I will just read the back instead of teasing you. I don't mean to tease. The highly acclaimed first novel by the author of The Remains of the Day and an artist of the floating world, A Pale View of Hills, is the story of Etsuko, a Japanese woman now living alone in England, dwelling on the recent suicide of her eldest daughter, in a story where past and present confuse in haunting and sometimes macabre ways. She relives scenes of Japan's devastation in the wake of World War II, even as she recounts the weirdness and the calamities of her own life. And yeah, for this to be the first thing that someone writes, it's absolutely fantastic. I recommend Never Let Me Go as well. I was actually assigned that in a college class And that's how I discovered this author. But this, it's quite short. I can read it in a sitting or two. It's really captures me. But it has some very difficult moments, as you can imagine by the description. But so good, so good. Next, I want to go and talk about a book that I cannot read called Huge Crack by Hubo. Hubo was a novelist and a filmmaker. He has one film called An Elephant Sitting Still, which I am a huge fan of. And that movie, it's about 4 hours long, but if you can, it takes place over the course of a single day, and a few different characters and their lives, and how their stories unexpectedly kind of intertwine with each other. But this is the book, it's a little bit bent. This is the book that inspired what would become that film. I have read translated parts of this book, but I really wish that I could read it in its original intended form. I have huge affection for Hubo and his work, and that's why I own a copy of this anyway, even though I cannot read it. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Now, we're going to move on to something a bit more fun, because I like to read some emotional stuff, some darker stuff. Not in like in a vulgar or vapid way, but I've lived a life, and I connect with traumatic and emotional art of any form in very unique ways. Often in ways that people don't always relate to. But next, we're going to move on to a graphic novel. Well, it's a series of comics called Carmen. That's upside down, I think. Nope, that's upside down. I'm mirrored, as you can see. Oh, this makes an excellent sound. I bought this book without knowing anything about it. I don't know anything about the creators. But, you see a cover like this. It's a beautiful hardcover book. You buy it. This also has some difficult themes, but it is just a very emotional, touching, and just, it's so beautifully intense. It's a beautiful story. I want to show some art from it. Just some of the covers from the alternate variant covers from the comics. Something that I really love about this book is that bodies are drawn in a very realistic, in the sense that the human characters' bodies look like actual people's bodies. It's not like, any kind of like super skinny looking people all the time. These people are not human. But the body inclusivity is amazing in this book, and it's part of what drew me to it so well. Beautiful bodies, very beautiful. Her heels. Oh, look at them. I think if you're a fan of Paprika, the anime film, that you would absolutely love Carmen. And it's all beautifully illustrated in color. I think I can show this page. But the way the bodies are drawn in this are just, they're done right, which I appreciate. I have struggled with my body image throughout my life, quite a lot, and just seeing something so beautiful represented in this book, every little bit of effort and inclusivity and representation, I feel like can help people. And yeah, it's absolutely incredible art. Very much in the vein of Paprika, or maybe even Amélie, the French film, if you're a fan. Carmen is quite interesting. We're going to move on to some things that I haven't read. First, a book by one of my favorite sci-fi authors, Ursula K. Le Guin. The word for world is forest. This is not a long book, and I got it at a discount because on eBay, the listing said what happened. Someone's cat chewed on this, and it was about $3. And I left a shining review thanking their cat for the lovely book. But, oh, they bought this for almost $20 and their cat chewed on it. I do not actually know a lot about this, but I think with the current events of the modern world, that it's probably quite relevant. And I think of a speech that Ursula once gave where she talks about how our reality, our progressing, difficult reality in this world, how we desperately need authors and minds and voices who can imagine a future and a hopeful way forward for humanity. I will read the back. When the inhabitants of a peaceful world are conquered by the bloodthirsty humans, their existence is irrevocably altered. Forced into servitude, the Astians find themselves at the mercy of their brutal masters. Desperation causes the Astians, led by Salver, to retaliate against their captors, abandoning their strictures against violence. But in defending their lives, they have endangered the very foundations of their society. For every blow against the invaders is a blow to humanity, the humanity of the Athshians. Once the killing starts, there is no turning back. But I think in our present world, where, governments act in a very eye for an eye way of thinking, and not in the interests of mercy and grace and forgiveness, I have a feeling this is a very relevant read. I'm not going to read the back of this one, but I'm just going to tap on it. Zealous Immaculate. This has become a little bit of a philosophizing, is that how you say? Quite a serious little video, and I did not expect that. But I've been wanting to do a book video for quite a while. This book is from a publishing company called Amphetamine Sulfate, I believe. They publish a lot of very counterculture, very almost experimental kind of literature. And I'm very fond of this book. Next, I want to do a little bit of my psychology readings that I've been doing, because I did study psychology for too many years in college, and it once felt like a bit of a curse, but I'm glad I did it now, and I would even do more. But one that I've been reading is called The Inner World of Trauma: Archetypal Defenses of the Personal Spirit. And this is a book, I'm quite into it, but this is a book about how through human history and, recorded history in psychology, which isn't long, Jungian psychology, basically, how people cope and defend against traumatic life events in ways that are very evocative of myth, folklore, and symbolism in a way that, is archetypal is really the only word for it. It's like these structures that mankind and humanity has created to cope with the immeasurable, things that we face. But yeah, it's very based in dream imagery as well as fantasy in the sense of the imagination, how the imagination copes with and makes sense of things that inevitably don't always usually make sense with the subjectivity of experience and memory, and the fluidity of those things, especially memory. And on a similar note, we have an older book called The Alchemy of Healing, which I'm not as far into, not nearly as far into. Psyche and soma, mind and body. And I think the phrase emotional alchemy is quite popular right now. But this is a book basically regarding how one can take experiences, mental and physical, traumatic experiences, and integrate them and embody them into forming a higher understanding for, just the human experience, the full breadth of all things that we experience as people. I think we've all been through something or another that is very hard to think about, very hard to get past. And this is just a book outlining the connection of the mind and body, the somatic connection to the psyche. And this even, goes from individual trauma to societal and structural trauma, to global traumas like the pandemic. That was a mass traumatic event for mankind and humanity. This covers all sorts of stuff like that. The mind and the body are just, two sides of the same coin. They're linked together, but people are just starting to think about them that way, at least in psychology. But enough about that. We're gonna move on to a very cool looking sci-fi book called False Dawn, which I picked up at the same coffee shop where I found the Liv Ullmann book for $4. And how much did I pay for this? This was $8. With a cover like this, it's very cool. I wonder what year this was. It's the book club edition. I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool. This came out in 1978, and it's written by a woman. Very cool, post-apocalyptic sci-fi novel. I'll read the back now. Gold Lake was a long way off. Evan had made light of their danger at first, but as hunger etched lines into his face, and Thea's eyes took on the haunted shadow of starvation, he admitted at least to himself that they had come a long way to die. For Thea, hunger was a specter dogging her steps, but an unreal one. Far more real, more threatening, was the possibility of pirates or lepers who would make their dying long and messy. Anxiously, she watched the rocks around them and the dark shadows under the trees. As the river rose in the floor of the steep canyon, they climbed high on the ridge above it, far from the thunder of the river and the danger of being trapped in the narrow gorge. Occasionally, they caught a glimpse of buildings huddled against the canyon walls, some deserted, some carefully guarded. It was these buildings, with their promise of food and shelter, that made Evan feel the weight of their distress, and in time he grew reckless, knowing that he would make an attempt without her if she refused to help him. He outlined his plan to Thea as they crouched on the crest of the ridge, above a small compound of houses and barns, nestled inside a wooden fortification. "Come on," Evan said to Thea, pulling her toward him. As always, she drew back, but he kept his grip on her arm. "We're going down there. It's our only chance." I think this is a very safe thing to blind by, just from the cover to the back description. I think it sounds incredible. And we're going to end on a post-apocalyptic theme. And I thought I would do this in a more interesting way than initially thought. But I have an unabridged graphic novel adaptation of The Road by Cormac McCarthy as well. The Road was actually my first exposure to Cormac McCarthy. I was assigned it in the same class that I was assigned Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. It was a humanities course, and the subject of the course was definitely a, course generated by the events of the pandemic. But, the subject was imagining the humanities at the end of humanity. And it was absolutely fantastic. We did visual art, we did music, we did movies, and then there are 5 books also. But I have not completely gone through this graphic novel yet. But the art is quite incredible. I just need to be careful about what I show. Because, yeah. So, very, very dark art. I'm so absorbed by this. It's absolutely perfect. I'm also a big fan of Blood Meridian as well, but I didn't want to get into that. This is already dark enough. But I hope the film gets made. I know John Hillcoat is attempting to get that done. And I love the film adaptation of The Road as well as The Proposition. So, if anyone can do it, it's him. I'm a big fan of that guy, even though I've not seen a lot. And something that I love about this is that there are full pages with no written dialogue, just walking and atmosphere and the landscape. And I've attempted to make some graphic novels in my time, and when I do, I never put dialogue in them, never, any written words. I try to convey the whole story through my art. And it's a bold choice that doesn't always work. But I didn't even know this existed when I found it. I was just at a bookstore and I was like, what is that? What is that? And it had actually, I think it was published last year actually, or the year before. It was fairly recent. But I think that we will end there. This has been quite a rambly video, far longer than I anticipated. But it's been very nice. I'll always talk about books. Honorable mention, something that would make the video about an hour longer. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. This book is a fascinating exploration on gender and gender norms, and it's not perfect by modern standards and, gendery stuff, But it was so far ahead of its time. But I can't get started on that. If you made it through this very rambly video, I thank you. I thank you very much. And I hope you have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, night, day. A wonderful now. And I will see you in the next one.